The scene shifts to an unknown beach, where a villa is located near the sea. Inside, a man with thin blue hair is asking why the Hong Kong-listed stocks have plummeted. Another man, the host, says that since last October, the foreign company funds have been short-selling. A kid with platinum blonde pineapple hair is the host. The other guy who just spoke is Jia Kai Liang, the 30th descendant of Jia Kai Kong Ming. He is the strategist of the Duizhan Heaven and Earth Society, and he explains that the reason for the short selling is that the private investment funds and investment companies established in America, Europe, and tax havens have targeted the kid with pineapple hair, who is called the Great Mongol of China's revival. He feels that this collapse is very serious as the entire world stock market is falling at this moment. China's dream will not be realized if the warlords and local forces are not eliminated. Even though this is a planned operation, it is very difficult. The kid asks what about the money of the children or the knights, but Liang says that this is hard to grasp, because everything has been messed up. The kid asks Liang if there is any countermeasure for this, and he answers that they should minimize the bloodshed to some extent. Suddenly, the kid's face darkens and reveals a murderous aura. The kid says that if you want to chop off the head, you have to chop it hard. The Great Mongol thinks that the competition of the economic power holders in the world is a daily war due to the opposition and hostility of personal interests. Even the current allies, the children, cannot be trusted anymore. If you expose your back, you will be attacked immediately. He continues to tell Liang that if he can't find the clue, he should look for the knights, the snake worshippers, or the remaining children, the secret organization of the assassins. Liang thanks him and says he will try his best to find out. He advises him not to disturb the snake in the grass, and something will appear at the right time. The kid turns to talk to another person. He asks when the heir of the clan from the knights will arrive. The darkness covers part of the face of the other person, but his figure looks very familiar. Liang tells him that the heir will land in Hong Kong next week. The kid suddenly mentions Plaza and says that he will let her know about this. He thinks that Plaza will surely be happy because the son of the president of the Knights is not only capable but also handsome. If she is not satisfied, then there is another way, and they have to stick closely with the Knights to deal with the remaining enemy. The mysterious man who appears is Plaza's father. He is thinking in his head after hearing what the Great Mongol said. He hopes she doesn't hate him because this is her destiny. However, his facial expression doesn't look good at all. At this time, at the apartment of Taysan, he is feeling uneasy about Plaza as if a god is warning him. He had contacted her, but she did not answer the phone or reply. He thought about the past, the change that decided the next 10 years. He smiled lightly, thinking that if he had fate with Plaza, he would meet her again. Because right now, what he needed to focus on was not love, but the world economy. He said that the butterfly effect had not happened yet. The Chinese stock market that reached 6,000 in October last year had dropped straight to 1,700 in November 2008. Next, a free party would open up in a grand way. He thought that even without money, he could short stocks and take all that money, because power also needed money to act. The foreign exchange flow would also happen as expected, the exchange rate would be hidden. It was the responsibility of each person. Do not blame anyone, it was the choice of each person. He suddenly remembered Oh Young-hook, the owner of Love, who was still alive and having fun. He secretly thought that he should let him have fun for a while. Maybe next month, he would have to wander in the endless void when Robert summoned the shareholders' meeting next month. Everything would end in June. He also did not forget the name of his son, Odencel. He would do what he had promised. He smiled wickedly. Because in just one more year, he would experience hell on earth. The wickedness flashed and disappeared. He became a stupid boy again. Then he remembered his beloved school. Tomorrow he had a lunch date with Senior Yuji. Then on Wednesday, lunch with Senior Sol. Oh, did he really plan to shoot several fish at the same time? This way, he went to school who, looking at him, would think he went to school just to seduce the girls of other schools. But he thought that was normal. Just because he had the appearance of a 20-year-old boy, dating beautiful girls was a blessing. Thinking of this, his face became angry. He took a deep breath. His time was approaching and everything was prepared as he wished. He wanted the system to announce that it could not summon the reborn god. Tae-san was terrified when Mogia had only become a god for 200 years and had been reborn. At this time, he suddenly fell into a dark world like ink. A light suddenly appeared in the air, startling him. A horse with both horns and wings was flying towards him. The closer it flew, the closer it got to where he was standing. When it got close, he found out that it was a unicorn, not a horse. He asked if it knew him. It kept shaking its head to deny. A person standing behind him said that this person was the one who called him here. He turned his head back in surprise, and a man with white hair appeared. He looked at the man in horror, even more horrified when the man was the music saint Beethoven. He stood blocking the sun, his face unclear. He asked him if he knew him. Of course, he knew he was the music saint Beethoven. He stood in horror, wondering why he was summoned here with a terrible person like this. Music saint Beethoven, the one called the music saint, was standing smiling in front of him, very scary. He asked him about his hand disease, whether it had healed or not. He said that after becoming a god, human diseases would disappear, and more than that. It was not a disease that humans could cure. He did not understand what he was saying. He explained that it was simply a divine illness, that was it. He was surprised and didn't understand what a divine illness was. He explained that most artists could communicate with the gods. Although they didn't like the hard work of composing, the gods always wanted to perform the art, music, and writing that they had learned there. He was one of them. After hearing the explanation, he was even more horrified. He continued to talk about the ability to communicate with the gods and told him about the masterpieces that he had left behind. Mozart, his teacher, and many other famous musicians also had the same ability. All of this was the combination of feelings when there was communication between humans and the divine. He was surprised that instead of summoning Mozart, he summoned Beethoven. He asked Beethoven where Mozart's teacher had gone. He was surprised and called Mozart. But Beethoven stopped him, saying that his teacher had gone on a business trip. He sweated and explained further that maybe his teacher was performing up there. He smiled and said that he would wait. He liked Beethoven, but he was a fan of Mozart. Beethoven said that he should wait and maybe his teacher would come back. If he needed talent, he should ask him. Feeling that something was wrong, he said that he didn't need to worry because he had met him here. At this time, the sound of horns and instruments rang out. This was the performance of the gods. He was surprised that the performance of the gods was very chaotic. He asked him how he felt when he heard this music. Although it was simple music, it was the 99th symphony that he had composed. He was amazed and asked why it was only up to the 9th. He explained that after becoming a god, his mind was very clear, and the feelings of this world disappeared into the melody. He was amazed by what he said. Although the music was simple, the piece was still a piece. If his 99th symphony was released in the human world, it would be a very amazing thing. Suddenly, at this time, the music stopped. He wondered why it stopped like that. He was embarrassed and said that it was over. He said that the end should have a chorus with the famous singers, then the emotion of this music would explode. He was embarrassed and covered his mouth, feeling that his words were right. But there was no one who was a famous singer here. He was very sad. But he laughed, explaining that there was no god here who was an opera singer, which surprised him. He explained that they had, but they didn't have time to come here to perform. He wondered, why didn't the gods listen to these pieces, because they were really amazing. He explained that there were many spirit beasts here that could sing, and they were overwhelmed by them. He didn't understand why birds could sing. He explained that it was a kind of beautiful heavenly bird that sang very well. Since then, no one listens to classical music anymore, causing them to gradually become out of fashion and live increasingly difficult lives. He asked, why not bring these songs down to mankind so that humanity knows about them? Wouldn't his fame change the trend of music? He tried, but he couldn't. Another person stepped in and said that there was no progress. He was surprised and looked at this person, who introduced himself as Chopin. He knew this person, who was called a poet on the piano keys. Another person came and said that even when interacting with humans and conveying feelings about new songs, they quickly disappeared. He was surprised again, because he didn't know who this person was. He introduced himself as W. Anime, a great composer and talented thinker, but he was in debt and caused countless scandals. Another person came and said, please help us. He was confused again, not knowing who this person was. He introduced himself as Redmaniuk, who had shed his ordinary fame, and was an original author of the work that he had performed directly. Standing in front of him, there were several tens of people who naturally came and introduced their names. All of them were talented musicians in the past, which made him extremely surprised. He felt embarrassed, looking at these predecessors who were all famous contemporaries. Everything was wonderful. Beethoven said that their karma points had now dropped a lot. If they couldn't pay the rent in a few days, they would be confiscated of everything, and begged him to save them. They suddenly became angry about someone who had stolen all their karma points, a hateful person to the point of tears. He collapsed their karma points and told them not to worry but to trust him. He was the traitor. He sweated and asked, was the thief Mozart? Beethoven confirmed his words. He didn't understand, could it be possible to steal all the karma points and reincarnate? He asked, what should he do to help them? Because his karma points were not infinite, so if he helped, he had to pay a price. One of them stood up and said that he sold his talent very cheaply, and others also clamored to sell their talents. They said that symphony, or chamber music, everything just needed him to say the request. One person said he would discount 99%, another said he would discount 99.9% for him if he bought talent from them. He hesitantly asked everyone if they intended to work part-time. Everyone was surprised at this concept of part-time work and didn't understand what he was saying. At this moment, he suddenly looked up at the sky and called out to Jean. If she wasn't busy, could she come to see him for a bit? At this moment, the sky seemed to split in two, and a light shone from the middle of the sky. A girl, no, a monster jumped down from that light tray, extremely dazzling. Jean asked Tae-san what he wanted from her. Jean smiled without understanding, what was he talking about? He said that everyone here wanted to see her. She pushed her round peaches towards him and said not to lie. Everyone present blushed at her peaches. She said that she wouldn't believe the lies of those men. Beethoven asked him who this noble goddess was, making his heart beat continuously. Everyone discussed whether she was a fox in her previous life, being too beautiful. She stepped forward and asked everyone if they were talking about her, making these people even more nervous. He smiled contentedly at their reaction. He stepped closer to her, leaned his face towards her and said that everyone here was their prey. She said that wait and see, today or tomorrow, they would all be expelled from the fairy world. He quickly shouted at everyone, wake up here, it's not time to indulge in the goddess. He said that if everyone was expelled from the fairy world, what would the human world be like? Among them, how many people had accumulated points when they were alive? Everyone here was extremely sensitive to art, but no one could accumulate any points. Everyone was stunned after hearing this. He continued, if you are banished to hell now, everyone will turn into pigs or dogs. Don't you know this? He said, don't think it's someone else's business, because that's what you all look like. Tomorrow, everyone be careful, it's not time to indulge in the goddess. Jean asked him why he was so angry. She asked him if he had been busy renovating the club recently. He still didn't understand. She asked him if he was opening tomorrow. Why was there no spirit today? He asked her if she wanted to work extra, wanted to hire her and everyone here to work extra for him. She was surprised. Everyone begged him to accept them to work extra, just wanting to have food to eat. Jean suddenly smiled charmingly. She asked him, "Can we try it now?" The dazzling light, his eyes couldn't stand it. The lights on the stage were turned on, the lights flickered, the space was blurred. At this moment, the whole stage turned into a club. Everyone was amazed at its beauty. He said that the interior fee was not a problem. Jean said she had spent money to hire a dwarf to work. He was surprised not knowing what a dwarf was like. She smiled triumphantly. He thought of those dwarfs, not dwarfs but human gods. He felt that there were dwarfs in the fairy world, so the competition was really fierce. Jean also agreed with him because there was no technique here, it would not be possible to live. At this moment, he suddenly gathered everyone together. He said that because everyone present here was called a musical genius, so he would introduce suitable jobs for everyone. Beethoven didn't understand what he was saying and wanted him to explain again. He explained first to sell everyone's useless talents in the past at a very cheap price. Things that were outdated, no one would buy. He wanted everyone to look carefully from now on. He would dance with the soul to show everyone what modern music is. Jean blushed when he was touched. Looking at everyone, he said, "Just watch and compose music." Everyone felt embarrassed to the point of blushing. They didn't know what was about to happen. Looking at Jean, he wanted to start right away. She smiled and said that she was ready. The music and lights were fully prepared. Everything was ready. At this moment, at the Korean university, the phone was still in hand. Clearly, they had an appointment with each other. But now he broke his promise. Yuji didn't know where Tae-san was and he didn't go to class. It was time for her appointment, but why didn't he show up? Suddenly at this moment, the melodious music sounded, making her look up. On that building, a violin melody was playing. Everyone gathered to look at the house that was making that sound. Clearly, it was cold outside, but there were many people. People didn't understand who was creating this music. Perhaps it was a music university student. The sweet violin sound was goosebump-inducing. Someone suddenly exclaimed, "This is the first time I've heard this music. It's really too good." The violin sound was like a sound from the stars. Moreover, it was not an ensemble but a solo, which surprised Yuji. At this moment, in Tae-san's room, he was playing his music, and the clear sound came from the violin in his hand. Yuji had come and saw that the person was the one she was waiting for, Yang Tae-san. This surprised her even more. She was extremely surprised by his talent. All the audience was responding to his music. He was like a god bringing joy to everyone here. Everyone cheered after listening to the music. At this moment, the cheers of admiration and wanting him to continue playing. At this moment, outside the campus, Yuji was annoyed and asked him why he was still hiding and why this violin performance appeared. He also didn't know that after ending the contract with Lin, the following days must be like this. Could it be that the hatred of the gods surged from the depths of their hearts? Yuji asked, "When did you learn to play the violin? Are you really human?" He smiled and said, "Because I am a versatile person. There are many versatile people in this world." She felt this was unreasonable. A law student who knows painting is already very good, and he also knows piano and violin. Enough to participate in major competitions. She shook her body and asked, "Besides these, do you have any other talents? Hurry up and say it so I won't be shocked anymore." He didn't say anything, but invited her to the school cafeteria for lunch. She asked, "Why go to the school cafeteria? Do you plan to save that money to build a building?" He said, I will donate that money to the poor. Leading her towards the cafeteria, the two walked side by side. At this moment, she asked him, "What are you thinking?" He looked at her and said, "Everything is beautiful at this time, and it's great with Sister Yuji." He spoke too early, like an uncle, making her shy. Whether she called him brother or uncle was correct, because he was clearly older than her. Suddenly, the call of his name startled him. A girl came over and asked, "Where have you been today?" He found that these were his classmates at the law school, his seniors, his first love. Jean was standing in a corner with a shy expression, very beautiful. He was surprised to look behind when he heard someone call his name. Yuji was also amazed. These people asked him where he was going. Everyone quickly came up to greet him and Yuji. They wondered why he didn't go to school today. Jean was the one who asked him. She shyly sighed. It was really hard to meet him now. He didn't want to answer Yeren. He had a bad impression of this senior. She was shocked when she found out he didn't like her. They asked him if he didn't register for classes or why he rarely showed up when he went to school. He smiled and said that he didn't register for any major courses. Yuji looked at Jean. She knew Jean was the famous school queen. When Jean dated the playboy young soul, it was the stain that Jean could never erase in her life. Yuji thought Jean wanted to use Tae-san to cleanse herself. At this time, everyone asked Tae-san if he would attend the opening ceremony tomorrow. He happily said that he would definitely go and wanted Sushi to send him the location. After greeting everyone, Tae-san and Yuji went to lunch. Seeing Yuji and Tae-san together, Jean was very angry. From the first day, Jean didn't like Yuji. Now she even went with Tae-san, making Jean more annoyed. Jean looked at Tae-san, who was laughing happily. She was determined to make him kneel at her feet. Because she didn't regret him anymore. At this time, in the classroom, there were whispers about Tae-san. They recognized him as the one who played the violin earlier. They talked about his nose being straighter than his gender and that he was a law student who could play both piano and violin. They also praised his handsome appearance. At this time, two other students came to ask him if he was really a law student. He felt a bit annoyed because sitting here not being a law student meant what major. But he still cheerfully answered the two people when he found out he was the junior of the law student class 8. The two people were very happy. Everyone surrounded him and praised him as the most handsome in the law department ever. They praised him for the violin piece he played this morning, which was like a song that had never been published. He also admitted that the song had never been published. At this time, everyone continued to ask him which music institute he studied at and if he was the composer of it. Or if his parents were in the music industry. At this time, his halo shone. He said that everything was his work and he was the one who composed it himself. At this moment, the sounds of applause began to ring out. As for him, he felt annoyed and said that if anyone had any doubts, he would prove it. He told everyone that he would play a piece on the piano. He walked to the piano that was placed in the middle of the stage. When he put his hand on the keys, someone below asked what the name of the music was. He thought for a moment. Because his music had no name, he smiled and started to play. He said to listen to him first. His fingers moved swiftly on the keys. The sound filled the room and reached outside the school. At this time, outside the school, the students were amazed to hear the piano and thought that there was a professor playing. At this time, the teachers also heard the piano and wanted to see who was playing it. The music gave everyone a strange feeling, like falling from heaven to hell. It was like waking up and finding oneself in a strange place and not knowing where to go. Everyone was moved to tears and did not understand why they came here. They all cried miserably as if they fell into their own lives. The piano sounded like it suddenly became a wanderer with nothing and started to sink into illusion. At this time, everyone under the stage was very touched by the piano. A professor recognized that this was Chopin's music, and only he could create such a wonderful melody. Everyone's eyes began to moisten with tears. Everyone wanted to hear it again. This was not normal music, this was the sonata of heaven. The sounds of admiration echoed, this was the music of heaven. They echoed throughout the room. In fact, only he knew that the music without a name was just written as number 77. At this time, a professor asked everyone, was this a student of their department or not? The student said that this was not a student of the music department. The professor did not know who this was. The student said that this was a new student of the law department. The professor was shocked to hear that this was a law student. He walked over and apologized for using the piano before the class. Suddenly, the professor saw that he looked exactly like Chopin, and he was surprised. He felt like he was tricked by Chopin, because he said that if he played this piece, everyone would clap endlessly. When he played the piano, he seemed to be not himself. There was clearly something different, as if someone had entered his body. At this time, the system announced that half of the merit points were given to the gods by Chi, and he didn't understand why it was divided. This was not a new type of scam. He expressed his talent with his own voice, but the gods also got points. He looked up at the sky and said that Chopin was not allowed to enter his body at will. Did he hear that? At this time, his phone suddenly rang with a message notification. Because it was about to rain, the opening ceremony location changed from the grass field to classroom 103. As he predicted, he would definitely drink beer and eat cake. But he felt that on days like this, it would be better to eat onion cake and drink rice wine. At this time, in a classroom, there was a voice of a professor scolding his student for not doing his job well. The professors would also attend the opening ceremony, but the location changed from the grass field to the classroom, making him very angry. He scolded him for wanting to live foolishly in such a society forever and started to compare him with Dong Song. Then he pointed at the student council president and started to curse. At this time, the student wanted to defend himself that he couldn't find a better place because there were too many people who registered for the opening ceremony. He started to yell at him for making the law department lose face. At this time, suddenly an angry voice said that which professor was too much, making him startled. He swore that he didn't know who had just spoken. He turned his head to see who had just scolded him. He was very surprised to see the person standing behind him. He walked up to him and introduced himself as the righteous man of the law department class 8, Jang Tae-san. Everyone was amazed to hear this name. He didn't understand what he was saying at all. He repeated and said that he was too much. He was angry because a new student dared to criticize the teaching assistant's words. He cursed loudly. He asked him if he was too heavy to curse him as a bastard. He scolded him again. He explained that anyway he was a teaching assistant and had no right to call a student a bastard. This made everyone startled. He wanted him to apologize and take back his words, especially when they were the ones who would become a part of the legal profession, implementing the justice and fairness of Korea. He was a teaching assistant, but he insulted them. It was no different from insulting all the students. He was angry. Because this damn kid was so stubborn, he looked at him and sighed. He repeated what he said earlier. He said that the head of the department was a first-year student and also an adult. He asked him not to talk nonsense but to act. He continued to question the adult. How could he swear? He did not enroll in the law department of Korea University to hear such words. The student council president also said that he was wrong to curse everyone. This time, he cursed everyone louder. Everyone said that they did not want to hear his curses. Tessa reminded him to apologize, which made him angry and scolded her continuously. It was because they could not find a place for the opening ceremony. At this time, he asked if he could find a place. Would he apologize? Hearing his words, he felt that he was just talking nonsense. He gave him an hour. If he could find a place that satisfied the professors, he would apologize publicly. He said that the first-year students of the business school had their opening ceremony at 3T Hotel. He did not want him to embarrass his school. Everyone was shocked when he demanded such a high place. He quickly took out his phone and dialed a number. He said that an hour was too little. He would negotiate right now. Everyone sweated when he was so bold. The teaching assistant sneered and stared at him to see what he was up to. At this time, the phone rang with the voice of the receptionist in charge of the conference at the 3T Hotel. He asked the receptionist if he could help him with something. He quickly responded. He said he urgently needed a place for the opening ceremony and could he rent the hall at the 3T Hotel? The other side confirmed the question. He said again that in an hour, there would be about 100 people, including the professors. At this time, everyone was horrified when he wanted to rent the hall at the 3T Hotel. The other side quickly replied that it was possible. They would arrange it right away. He requested the chef Albert Leo, who cooked the dishes he had eaten before, and sent 3 buses to the parking lot of the Law Department of Korea University. The other side quickly arranged and agreed to meet in an hour. After hearing the conversation, everyone was stunned. The teaching assistant could not believe it and said that he was lying. He asked him if he wanted to talk to the representative. At this time, he repeated it again and wanted him to apologize. He still did not believe him and said that he was tricking him. He wanted him to shut up. He was very angry when he heard him say that. He looked at him and warned him, which made him very surprised. At this time, he suddenly became distant. He looked at him and scared him. He said that he should apologize or he would die. He was terrified and quickly apologized for being wrong. He promised to be careful with his words. At this time, he was so scared that he wet his pants and ran to the bathroom. He thought of his appearance just now and was so scared that he could not breathe. Everyone quickly thanked him for his help. He said that he only helped his friends when they were in trouble. Everyone was moved to tears and praised him as amazing. Hearing those compliments, he felt very happy. At this time, the system announced that the merit points had been added. At the 3T Hotel, there were discussions about the law department also coming here. They saw the law students get off the hotel bus and go to the hall. They talked about having a food cart and a female chef. There was also a foreign chef who came and thought that it was because of young Seo's help. Yuya from the law department also wanted to go directly to confirm this information. At this time, the hall was crowded. People were talking about the person who booked the whole hall and invited a girl group. Moreover, he rented the hotel hall in an hour. There were also high-end services. People talked about this person being probably very rich. They heard that he had a foreign family who was a tycoon. They talked about Taeson's name. They didn't know who he was, but he seemed to be a big deal. Yuya heard all these words, and she was surprised that Yang Taesan did these things. She felt that he was really amazing. At this time, she had a crush on him. She went to the law office of Samu right away. At this time, Taesan asked the lawyer about the investigation of the Financial Supervision Service. He said that everything had been blocked because it was a legal situation, so he used a little force. They also shut up, and he asked him if he knew who was managing the business. At this time, he thought that he wanted to manage the business seriously. He also admitted that he would do that himself. The lawyer asked him how big the scale was, whether it was a small or medium business, and if he could tell him or not. He happily said that he could. The lawyer said that if he had the power, he would be more comfortable, but with the current finances, he certainly wouldn't buy a troubled business. He smiled and said that he wanted to buy a conglomerate. The lawyer happily said that it was good, but when he heard the word conglomerate, he was terrified. He asked him if it was the Yongjiang Group. He criticized that group as being too small, so he had to think more. The thoughts that crossed the lawyer's mind made him panic. Seeing the lawyer's reaction, he told him that he had come to the right place. The lawyer screamed that it was impossible. He smiled and told the lawyer that he wanted to buy the Anna Group. The lawyer was scared and advised him not to touch them, because with the birth of this government, the Anna Group had spent a lot of money. So he shouldn't touch them. If he did, the chairman of the Anna Group would kill him. He was scared and advised him not to touch them, because he might lose his life. His sincerity still didn't move him. He comforted him not to worry, because that damn bastard had offended him. The lawyer advised him to choose Yong-sung Group. He would try his best to help him. He advised him to choose that group to give to his mother. He said that snacks could not be the main dish, which made him panic. He asked him, Yong-sung was a snack, and Anna was the main dish. How could he say that? With a cup of coffee in his hand, he happily thanked the manager for inviting him to have coffee today. She said shyly that it was what she should do. Suddenly, the phone rang. His mother called and asked if he was busy. He said he was not busy. What was it? It turned out that his mother asked if he was doing well at school. He said that if his mother wanted to know, she could come and visit him on the weekend. But his mother wanted him to visit her more. He was surprised and asked if there was a problem with the house. His mother said there was no problem with the house, but the problem was with him. He did not know what was going on. His mother said that his health check was done, and he had the paper now, which made him panic. His mother asked, why did he forget this, or did he deliberately forget it? He was very scared because, even if he had regression, the memories in the army still terrified him. A place like a dream garden of a strange country, where strange and ugly geniuses gathered together. The manager asked him why he had to check his health. He forgot that the manager was right in front of him. He should not say these things. He explained that his mother said he had a health check paper. She still did not know anything. Assuming that his health was definitely first class, he did not understand why she reacted like that. She said that looking at him, he was very suitable for the Marines or Special Forces. He was very surprised by her reaction. Seeing his reaction, she said that she really knew his age, which scared him. She said that if a woman cared, she would also collect a lot of information, not less than men. He was embarrassed and sweated by what he heard. She continued to say that it was not men who flirted with women, but women who gave signs to men first. She gave him a hint. She explained that she was very suspicious when he only asked her to book a plane ticket or a hotel and always paid directly for the snacks or pizza, up to millions of won a month. Working on weekends or holidays was strange enough. In these things, he was surprised that these loopholes were all caused by him. While drinking coffee, he heard her say that he was also studying at Korea University Law School. She said that she had searched and knew roughly the area he was living in, so she tried to find his high school. She knew that he was the pride of the high school, who got into the law department of Korea University. He choked on his coffee when he heard all the information about himself. She asked him if he hid from her because he was afraid she would look down on him for being young. She asked him if he knew how women calculated. She explained that there was no company like this in Korea. Even if the director was a high school student, she would still stay at the company because age did not matter. He was embarrassed and did not know how to react, so he said that he thought the manager would sympathize with him, but never mind. She happily said that because he was a good person, she would dedicate herself to the company. He did not know what it meant to dedicate himself, and she assured him that if he had to go to the military, she would not betray him. Not only sending letters, she would also visit him every month and she would notify them in advance so that they would not bully him just because they were older than him. He did not understand why her reaction was like she wanted him to enlist. He smiled and said that he did not need her to visit. She panicked when she saw his reaction, and did not know what she did wrong and feared that he hated her, making her blush and scared. He looked at her and said that he had no intention of enlisting, making her very surprised. At that moment, the voice on the other end of the line said that the boss was in trouble, and he seemed to have gone back to his hometown. He left the house early in the morning and was currently on the high-speed train. What should they do? A man replied to the voice on the other end, asking where their security company was. The voice on the other end said that he was going alone. He said that if so, then follow him and he would send them right away. He hung up the phone. He remembered Jang Tae-san as a kid who was good at taking down businesses, and he went to Korea University to study. But he wanted to kill him on his own homeland. At that time, he was on his way back to his hometown, and he had arrived in Jangja City. The scenes of fighting appeared in his head, the memories of the past and the bastard who went to jail. He stepped off the bus in his homeland and admired the fresh air of his hometown. He also remembered inviting his old friends. He came back to check his health, but suddenly something exploded, a bang. In front of him, a god called him, surprising him even more. He did not know which god was about to appear. With the house in the Chinese style, it turned out that the god of language appeared in front of him. He asked him if he was well. He saw him happy, and he asked what was going on. Seeing that he could see that he was happy, he was even happier. He praised him for being very sharp-eyed. He said that his way of speaking had also changed. What had happened? He asked him why he had accumulated so many points. It was amazing. He asked him if he had ever heard of the Lake of the Gods. He knew that, the lake in the legend that the other gods had mentioned, it was a very different place. He told him that one day he went to the Lake of the Gods and used the points he had accumulated that he had put in to buy the entrance fee to the lake. He felt that the Lake of the Gods was like a famous amusement park. He explained that he had only been there once because he lost too many points, so he could not go there anymore. But he said that it was wonderful, the water of the lake was very different. He did not understand what was different about the water of the lake. He explained that the water of the lake was very smooth. Suddenly, he thought that the lake was not a girl, but smooth and shiny. He asked why he mentioned that place. He explained that he had studied there. He was very puzzled that a god would also go tutoring. He asked him if he didn't know that. He was even more shocked, not knowing how it related to him. He explained that he had learned ancient languages, he had learned them there. He didn't understand much, because those languages were magical languages that appeared in fantasy novels. He said that he had also taught the people there the language he knew. In exchange for that, he wondered if the gods also learned that language. He said, the god who had a high position did not speak, the one who had a lower position had to learn to cross another dimension to do the mission. At this point, he finally understood. Besides, now there were many space gods crossing here, because the part-time job had witches, fairies, wizards, and many other things. Of course, he knew those people. So, thanks to that, he had taught them the language in this dimension. He whispered to him, they had a lot of karma points, especially the female fairies who had a good body, and their points were better. Finally, he also understood the fairies he mentioned in his words. He thought that it turned out he also met fairies, although not at the level of a queen like Nova. Suddenly, he was very jealous of Barcelona. He also had Nova's study materials, but he also wanted to contact those fairies. At this time, he laughed happily, because being a god here was too comfortable. He praised him for being amazing, being able to earn a lot of points. He must have a lot of points. Seeing his face wanting to go there, he quickly stopped him, making him angry. He explained that he was not a god. He didn't understand why he wasn't a god. He said that he was not a god, so he couldn't go there. He wanted to go there, because his body was in the human world, but he could also talk and trade with the gods. But he mysteriously said that there was no way to see his expression. He knew he wanted to make a condition with him. But he still pretended to ask how to get there. He looked scared and said that it was a bit dangerous. He didn't understand, just learning the language, what was so dangerous. He said that it was not too dangerous and asked him how many karma points he had earned. He smiled and said that he probably had enough. He asked him if he wanted to trade twice the points of the previous trade. He happily agreed, making him wonder why he decided so strongly. He fell into his trap. Then he hugged his shoulder and said that since he appeared, he had noticed his score. Was that right? He didn't want to talk much and wanted to sign the deal right away. He quickly agreed and said that if he knew the ancient language, he would get his points. At this time, the system increased a great god from another space who started to pay attention to him. At this time, in his hometown, in the evening, his old friends quickly came to see him and expressed their nostalgia, because it had been too long since they met him. He asked them if they missed him or his wallet. One person ran to hug him, saying that of course they missed both. One of them said that he seemed to have grown taller, and asked if he wanted to meet someone. It was to see a matchmaker, but another friend stopped him and said that Tae-san was different from before, and now only they were not good. Another mushroom-haired guy said that he had Seoyin and another beautiful sister, which was Plaza. Everyone quickly wanted to drink together. A guy with split hair said that he had gone to see a matchmaker yesterday, making the curly-haired guy angry because the black-haired guy in the school was a traitor. The two happily talked about going to see a matchmaker. Tae-san felt that they were all like before, and did not change. At this time, everyone was pouring wine, and asked each other if the others had arrived. The split-haired guy said that those who could come had already come, because it had been a long time since they met, and many people were not at home. He looked at them, and asked them if they wanted to play net. Suddenly, the mushroom-haired guy slammed the wine glass on the table and said, "Wake up. In this city, who still plays net?" He was shocked, and did not understand what was going on. The mushroom-haired guy said that playing games was old, and now they should go shooting, and change to suit the times. The bald guy said that those who were about to go to military service like them should shoot. She asked everyone if they had checked their health. Everyone said that they had checked. Everyone wanted to make an appointment to enlist, and enlist in the same year. Everyone agreed with this idea. Tae-san felt that they were like a bunch of crazy people who wanted to enlist. He said, "Sorry, don't count me in the enlistment, because I don't want to enlist." The reason was that he was lame, so he probably couldn't go. Everyone did not understand what being lame was and why he had to apologize. Everyone suddenly hit him on the head, praising him for not enlisting, which was great. A jealous voice said that he was lucky that he was lame and did not have to enlist. Seeing his friends like that, he invited everyone to go shooting, and he would hurt them all. At this time, at the net shop, he felt that no matter what he did, he still felt that his 20s were the best. He could drink beer together, play as much as he wanted and eat comfortably. He would pay for everything, because he was rich. At this time, outside the net shop, he walked towards the street, stopped for a moment, and looked at a corner. He said, "You guys can come out now." At this time, a group of ghosts came out, holding knives behind his back. He said he knew they were following him since he parked his car, and then told them to come out. The Flies, a long-haired guy holding a knife, came out. At this time, a fat man and a blonde man also followed him. They praised them for having a long handle. If measured, it would probably reach the bone, right? Without waiting for him to say much, they suddenly grabbed a knife, rushed towards him, and slashed him. He opened his eyes in fear because of this terrible killing intent. But, they slashed his face. He was annoyed, yelled at them, making him scared. They ignored what he said, constantly rushed up like a moth, wanting to kill him. He grabbed the fat man's face and asked, "Did you really intend to kill him?" They were all stunned when one of his hands could hold the face of a tall person like that. Looking at them, he knew that they seemed to be not from here. They looked more like Chinese or Korean people, regardless of his thoughts. The blonde man rushed over and slashed his leg. Seeing them like that, He knew that they wanted to kill him for real, making him angry. He squeezed the fat man's face violently, making his face almost distorted, tears flowing. The fat man screamed in pain and backed away. The long-haired man was also scared by his action. The blond man looked at him in confusion, not knowing where he got so much strength. At this time, suddenly his left hand showed a white light and his right hand also showed a white light. They didn't know what he was doing, the Tai Chi 5 Elements Yang Joy Heart method. He asked them if they were surprised or not. He asked, "Is this the first time you meet someone like him?" The long-haired man was terrified, sweating. He looked at them very funny when they kept rushing up like a moth. He was very calm, closed his eyes. At this time, the blond man had grabbed a knife and slashed his head. He opened his eyes, glared at them, cursed them as wicked evil sections. Suddenly, a lot of ghosts appeared behind the long-haired man. He smiled wickedly, saying that they were dead for sure. They ignored him and rushed up enthusiastically, wanting to kill him. He was very calm and dealt with them. At this time, blood splashed everywhere. One of them fell to the ground, lying in a pool of blood. In fact, they all lay in a pool of blood, in pain. Only the long-haired man was kneeling and holding his bloody face. The fat man had his eyes wide open and lay in a pool of blood, his jaw was twisted. The blond man had a few holes on his body, lying down as if he was dead. He walked over and asked them if they wanted to fight more. These assassins were too weak for him. He asked the long-haired man, "Who sent them here?" But he clenched his mouth shut. He repeated once more, "Who sent them here?" Answer before he still talked politely. They said nothing, making him think they couldn't speak. He looked at them with a friendly smile and said that he knew everything, so they could relax. He looked down and asked if the person was still alive, even though he only had one arm left, right? The long-haired guy was scared, thinking that he had gone crazy. He smiled and said, "First, you should rest, because your friends still have their arms and legs. And next, he will be the next one." He put a hand on his hand, and he glared in fear. He quickly said, "Don't do that, he was wrong. Please forgive him, he will tell everything." He praised him for thinking thoroughly, but what to do, because it was too late. He looked at him with contempt and said, "Even if I want to forgive them, the souls following them say this, break his bones and peel him off, and take revenge for all of them." He was very astonished when he heard this. Blood splattered everywhere, staining the sky red. At this time, at the security company, Director Han asked him if he was okay. He happily said that he was fine. Director Han asked, "Who are they that dare to look for you like that?" He said, "They are professional assassins." Director Han was very surprised why the assassins who were also called mercenaries wanted to find him. He asked him if he also knew them. He said, he had also heard of them. This was a public secret in the security world. If they were mercenaries trained professionally from China, it would be hard to find their traces. He asked if they came to their country a lot. He said, "There are many people who have forged passports to come here." She said they had very proficient skills in kidnapping and killing. He heard that their organ trafficking network was very systematic. He was terrified, although he had also predicted some parts, but the ones targeting him were cold-blooded. Now it was not only to protect his life but also to protect his family. But he did not show his fear. He asked Director Han with understanding, "Them?" He said that today he had hurriedly brought 10 people to him and introduced him to 2 sisters. They were 2 female tutors, and there were others who would protect him. He said to arrange people to come near his father's farm and install more surveillance equipment, including CCTV. No need to save anything. He said he heard that 50 more people would be added. He also confirmed that this was true. He looked at him with a determined expression and said that even if 100 more people were added, it would be fine. If they were capable and reliable people, he would always welcome them to this company. Everyone obeyed his orders. In a building, a man was slamming the table because the plan had failed. He was cursing his subordinates as a bunch of idiots. He was angry and asked where the assassins were. At this time, there were two people walking forward, comforting each other. "Don't worry, manage your emotions well." The tiger lawyer said that their director was very good. "Don't be stressed. Just tell everything about him." He asked if this building was fully used. The lawyer quickly confirmed that this was true. In Jang Taeson's office, the head of the travel department came to greet and invite two people in. She asked them to wait here for a while. This is his company. He welcomed them happily. He had been waiting for a long time. He was very curious why the director here could be so young. Because he thought he had never worked before. At this time, the tea was brought. The head of the travel department arranged the tea on the table for them. The lawyer asked him if he had read Wanu's letter. He said he had read it. He asked him how he felt about the job. Taesan smiled and said he felt like a model citizen of the Korean industry, making him stunned. The lawyer quickly introduced his friend, who was the historical witness of Ji-gam. Taesan smiled. Taesan said that he looked very trustworthy. He replied modestly, he was too kind. Suddenly, he said he agreed. He was shocked and didn't understand why and what. He smiled and said he trusted his lawyer more than his brothers in the house. And the person that the lawyer recommended, he didn't need to ask. Many times, the lawyer quickly comforted his friend, saying that he should do his best for Director Jang, because if his friend made a mistake, he would also be ruined. Wanu said that he would try his best with a scared face. He smiled satisfied with his expression. He looked straight into Wanu's eyes. He wanted him to manage the merger team on the 10th floor, making him not understand what the merger team was. He said he would appoint him as the head of the special executive director. He was worried and scared, tears streaming down his face, and thanked me. I asked him if he had worked at Jong for a long time, right? He said that he had worked there for 26 years. I said that I personally liked the people of Jong, because their creative oil technique using hand knitting was very outstanding. Therefore, I wanted him to recruit people from Jong to work for the company, because I needed talented people with ambition. Wanu asked the lawyer what the talent merger team meant. Seeing his expression, I knew that lawyer Du had not told him anything. The lawyer said that it would not be fun if he told him beforehand. He was terrified, and asked me which company I was going to merge with. I answered that it was Anna Group, which made him extremely frightened. The lawyer explained that his law firm was also owned by Jang Taesan. He was shocked by my background. The lawyer said that since he had introduced him to work here several times, he had to buy drinks for the lawyer regularly as promised. He was still in shock by the news he had just heard. If he could run Anna Group, he would suddenly melt down. He declared that if he ran Anna Group, he would use his life to serve me. I felt very pleased by this expression, and the lawyer felt that he had chosen the right person. At this time, the coffee was still not drunk. The lawyer thanked me for accepting his friend. I happily said that I had to thank him for nominating a talent for me. I asked about the group of two. They seemed to have been arrested by the police, right? The lawyer said that one of them had committed suicide, and the other two remained silent. The lawyer said that they seemed to have solved each other. I asked if they were Chinese nationals. The lawyer had also investigated this and confirmed with the Chinese embassy and the police agency in the country, they had no nationality. The lawyer asked me if I could guess who was behind this. I asked if it was Anna Group. I said that I felt that it was not Anna Group, but another enemy of mine. The lawyer sighed about my life. It was really scary. Well, I also wanted to live quietly, but the bastards kept coming to me. The lawyer teased me that I had more enemies than my age, but he could not envy this. I smiled and said that my enemies were also his enemies. What else? He was depressed, and said that Anna Group alone was already tiring. Now there were also these hired killers. He wanted to live until 100 years old, but there were too many things to solve at this time. In the evening in Seoul, in a villa, the torches were still lit. On the chair, a man sat looking at the pictures on the table. They were pictures of the assassins after the fight. He felt that this was not a normal fighting talent, and there was something very strange. He could not explain this strangeness. His hand kept moving, the stock chart was still displayed on the screen. He suddenly thought of his father, who was much better than he thought. He suddenly thought of Jang Tae-san's mother, the youngest daughter of his father. Holding the information board of Jang Tae-san, he felt that his grandson was too smart. He studied law at Korea University, and also had a knack for investing. He was also very good at fighting. But what to do, the money that the kids saved, all for the sake of their clan. He wanted to take everything from them and use it for himself. The night was moonlit, the smell of smoke was strong in the air. The cigarette was still smoking, and so was the money. He lay on the chair, feeling that this was what living was. But suddenly, he remembered the call he had with the chairman in the morning. He had apologized for not being able to kill Yang Tae-san. But he did not accept it, because life was not always smooth. He only asked him not to let the rumors spread. He respected his chairman very much. He even gave him money to spend. He was very touched, feeling that he had failed but still got 300 million. He felt that there must be some relationship between Jang Tae-san and the chairman, and if he did well, he might get more money. Suddenly, he felt very He peed and thought, if he got enough 300 million, he would leave this place, not wanting to come back. He wanted to get a gun. Even if Jang Tae-san was very strong, just one shot in the head would kill him. He felt that his thinking was very accurate, but suddenly a hand hit his head and made him spit blood. He wanted to turn his face to see who wanted to kill him, but it seemed impossible. The hand kept hitting his head on the wall. The person behind asked, "Don't you know how scary this world is?" And laughed horribly. The person slammed him down on the floor, spitting blood. He lay on the floor. Then, a foot stepped on his head and made him roll his eyes. Tae-san was the one who killed him, but it seemed he was already dead. Looking at him lying on the ground with blood and urine mixed, Tae-san knew that the life of this Han Jong guy was over. Blood splattered everywhere. The system suddenly announced that he had gained karma points. The karma points were added continuously. Tae-san was pleased that he had just got new points in the morning. It was spring, which made him very happy. He wanted to solve Yeseo's problem quickly, got out of bed to put on his slippers, looked out at the city. He felt very lonely since he changed his perspective. He also had some vague relationships, but only with Plaza was the closest to love. Thinking of Plaza, he immediately thought of the kiss in the rain that day.